Manly Sea Eagles, and their stars over there fixing his hamstring in Tom Trbojevic, and I feel like we haven't seen him for a while. It's been disappointing for a league fan, and I bet almost brings a tear to the eye of the Manly fans as well, because without him, they're a completely different side, unfortunately. But Luke, where are you at now with the Manly Sea Eagles for the 2023 season?
I am probably flipped over to the side of them going down the ladder again, to be fair. I do believe that a lot of it rests on Tommy, but I do think that even with Tommy in the picture, they don't have that comparing to when they were at their peak with Tommy at full powers. And let's just be honest, Tommy is fantastic, but it's going to be very hard for him to even return to that form, especially with these repeated injuries. And also the game has differed in terms of those rule sets. You know, that was favouring the attacking team more than we've ever seen the rule sets do in the past. So I do believe that their roster is weaker now. I don't think there's any argument arguing that. I'm not sold on. I am. I'm sure. I'm sold on Schuster as a talent, but there's a few other things I'm not sold on him, and I don't really want to get into that kind of argument today. I think he can be a great six, but a lot of that is going to rely on his shoulders, and also just a loss of form. Form's a huge
Yeah.
loss. We talked about his impact on the Titans last week. I think there's weaknesses in the backs, there's weaknesses in the forwards. I love Olakuatu. I think he is on when he's on his game, you can make an argument he's a top five back rower. He was fantastic last year. Jake Trbojevic, Cherry Evans, look, solid players worthy of their rep status, but there's limitations, and a lot of times you question how good really are they. And then Seabold comes in. There's a lot of question marks for me. And look, we talked about potential wooden spoons last week, and there's another team that's going to come up, and probably immediately we tease one. I've actually got this team in the midst of it as well. I don't have a good feeling about the Sea Eagles this year, but there's also that Tommy factor,
Yeah.
and prove me wrong, and me forgetting actually no, he is that damn good. So for me, man, I'm not feeling great about the Sea Eagles, but I do love a lot of the young talent.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. Not to be boring to start off with, but I'm with you with Manly, and I just can't wrap my head around him. And the thing that makes me worried about going out and saying it about him is that, as you said, Tommy could turn up like he did the year before in 2021 and just turn it on. And if he does that, then we've got eggs on our faces. But at the same time, you sort of got to be realistic with it as well. And hamstring injuries and leg injuries and things like that are something that doesn't just go away. They can stay there. He's had it a number of times now, and we've just seen, and he's had his obviously the shoulder as well last year, and we're just for how good he is,
Mm,
Manly. It's a hard one for Manly because they need to put so much money into him and his brother as well to keep him there. But whenever one of them's they're not there, it's such a hole. And I argue with this all the time. They're Manly. Them two are Manly. And I
yeah.
know Jerry Evans is there, but for mine, you'd rather Cherry out every day of the week over Turbo, in my opinion. And I think when Tam, we mentioned this last week, when teams are wanting that one player to stay fit, and that's what they're relying on to do, and to make it a successful year, I think that's when you've got to worry a little bit, because I don't think that's a healthy roster then, if that's what it's all it will take for it to go down, you know what. So we've also seen last year where the jersey and that sort of whole fiasco did to the club. And you've sort of got that in the back of your mind still going, has the playing group really gotten back together? Or that will always pop up this year. There'll be times throughout where there'll be questions about stuff. There'll be, who knows, there might be an idea about doing it again this year. I think there's already talk about that. Will it pop
Mm.
up again? You don't know. And it changed that club so quickly that last year when it happened, it could happen again. And that's why for me, I'm similar to you. I just can't put him anywhere near my eight. I'm with you. I've got him going down actually, and there's some teams below them for mine who roster wise have built a much better roster moving forward and a much stronger roster. Like if you look at the gains, they've got Tuolungi from the Tigers, great young prospect, Condon, Cooper Johns, and Nathaniel Roach. So not really three names for mine who stick out and go, they're going to change Manly for sure. But then they lost. Kieran Foran was one of the big instigators of getting them going the right way, especially to help Cherry Evans out. Dylan Walker, who was doing an amazing job off the bench in that 14 role for him. And Tapau, I know he was probably a little bit off, but he was still one of their better forwards, in my opinion, on a weekly basis. And Andrew Davey can do a job in the second row for him as well. So they've lost some pretty big talent-wise and not really replaced that. So I'm with you, mate. I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like you brought up those players, and mainly my ears popped up on me. You're like, I do like those players, but it's a sense like, say, if the Panthers signed them or the Storm signed them or those teams with those proven systems, it'd be like, they've done it again. They've got those players that have shown a glimpse of something and they're going to turn them into borderline red players. Not saying, but like it's one of those things. It's like the Storm this year with Lisa Katoa. It's like, well, if anyone's going to bring the best out of him, it's going to be the Storm and Garner going to the Panthers and Hoskins. Like, obviously, we'll get into them teams in probably part 3. But it's just those. But in terms of a team that needs that, proven first graders, they're obviously not going to fill that void, eh?
No, and I think we've got to quickly point and have a quick discussion on the coaching factor. And Seabolt, Des obviously has now got the sack from Manly. It was sort of their deer in headlights for quite a lot towards the back half of last year. And Seabolt, he's had his fair share of ups and downs, mainly downs throughout most of his coaching career. It's fair to be said, and he's always been questioned with his philosophies and how he thinks. He's an overthinker. He really bombards the players with his coaching ways and too much sort of the visual stuff and things like that, where Des would have been the total opposite. So this whole playing group and the Trebojevic brothers especially, they loved Des. And I believe most of the players still loved Des and didn't want him to go. It was more of the backroom that ended up making him go. But that could also impact the playing group, because if you've got a coach now coming in who pushes his way so hard, like a Hitler style, and the players aren't already buying in at the club, that could really quickly derail the whole season. And after round 6 or 7, they got no wins there, and you could be thinking, well, Seabold, I think the boardroom have egg on their faces now for this move. Where are you at with Seabold? Do you think it's the right fit, or do you think Desi should have kept it?
Oh, well, Desi's been hard done by. Obviously, there's disconnect there with the ownership and him, and it's just funny, and especially how it's upset the guys we just focused on before, the Turbos. I should say, the Trebojeviches. Look, see, I kind of do echo everything you say there. I will say one thing in Seabold's defense. I do think he wasn't celebrated enough in terms of the success he did get out of the Rabbitohs. He was coach of the year. He was like, holy smokes, he got this left side cracking. So I don't feel like he got celebrated enough. And also, you got to remember that a lot of people actually predicted him to win coach of the year when he went to the Broncos. And now we all kind of thought that was an interesting situation that happened with Bennett, but a lot of people did kind of view it still working out. It just didn't like how it happened. So with that positives that's happened and him reflecting on having that time away from the game, what he could do better. And he's obviously been, because it was with the Knights for a stint there, wasn't he, working as an assistant, or was he with someone else? So he's obviously still within, the rugby league circle. So work on those positives that he has proven in top level. He has proven something already, and then reflecting on it. That is obviously, and then the boys, in terms of Tom and Jake, they haven't left as well. They could have easily just, kicked the toys and gone, and not many people would have blamed them. So it says a lot that they haven't done that. So it'll be interesting. But you brought up stuff, the jersey stuff. There's a lot of red flags here. Too many for me to see Seabold having the most successful year